It's great to see you guys. I have to say this is one of my favorite topics in tech right now, so I'm very excited to have both of you here. We should do a little bit of an introduction. I'm sure both of you, everyone here probably knows of these companies, but it's great to hear from you guys, and maybe give yourselves a little bit of an introduction, plus you guys go way back and have known each other for quite a bit. Alfred, let's start with you.
Well, since we go back a long time, maybe I'll just introduce Brad. This is Brad Porter. I met Brad when he and I worked together at Tell Me Networks, where he was the chief architect. So he's been working on AI all the way back to, 1998, 99, where the company was founded. We're automating 800 numbers and customer service numbers through voice recognition. And then after Tell Me was sold to Microsoft, he went and worked at Amazon and helped redesign their architecture for their retail website. He did such a good job as a distinguished engineer, they made him the VP of Robotics. And I had been working at a company called Zappos that used Kiva systems, and he took over the program and scaled that program to 500,000 robots before he left to join Scale.ai, and then now recently founded Cobot. So that's Brad.
Brad, do you want to introduce Alfred?
Well, Alfred's given some of his history at Tell Me Networks and at Zappos, but has then, I can probably say this about him. He probably can't mention himself that he's been Midas #1 VC in the world for Sequoia Capital at kind of the early stage. And super excited that Alfred and Sequoia led the Series A in Cobot. And so, yeah, I've just been fortunate to consider Alfred a friend for a long time.
That's a perfect setup. Well, welcome to both of you. So we'll talk about robotics. We've got about 20 minutes up here. We could talk about this forever, but this has been around for quite a bit. We are now in this generative AI moment. There's been so much more attention, so much more funding, and just sheer dollars going into this space. Why now? Why should we care more about robotics than we did 5 or 10 years ago? Brad, you want to take this one?
Yeah, I mean, so AI is going to be incredibly transformative for robotics. It's going to enable mechatronic systems to do things that we haven't really conceived of them being able to do before. And if we bring ultimately kind of human level intelligence, or even more athletic intelligence than humans have, the speed of cheetahs and things like that, to mechatronic systems, the things that those robots are going to be able to do in the world are going to today, like, our ultimate is to think about cars or, like, cherry pickers that go up and change the lights, right? Like, just imagine the future where all of those types of systems can do all of that work autonomously in and around us. And so I think we're going to have this rich tapestry of what robots look like. We need to bridge from here to there. That AI doesn't exist yet. And so it's a matter of how do we start building robots today that are going to be able to get better and better as AI gets better and better.
Alfred, how are you thinking about it, and what's the investment thesis behind all of these?
Yeah, so when I started my career in technology, lots of people focused on software, because software is already really hard, and hardware is even harder. And then fast forward to today, we've done a lot in software. AI systems are really powerful on the digital world. And the unchallenged thing is the physical world. And if you sort of think about the world, we spend a lot of time in the physical world. We spent a lot of time in the digital world recently, but most of our lives are lived through the physical world. And the best innovators, the most valuable companies, if you just think about the Magnificent Seven, all of them today are both hardware and software companies. Some of them are hardware, software, and physical world companies, such as Tesla and Amazon. But we are pushing the boundaries what technology is going to change and change in the real world. And it's really exciting because then it allows us to do things that are uniquely human to us, and we get to do the things that we want to do. Brad's building robots so that they can collaboratively work with humans in a hospital, in a medical center, in a distribution center. And those are really exciting things, because then the human can focus on what they want to do and on innovation.
So humanoid robots, Cobot is not a humanoid. Why not? Is that the best form factor? And why did you choose to go in a different direction?
Previously I led robotics for Amazon, right? In about a 4-year period, we went from 50,000 robots to 500,000 robots at Amazon. I got really excited about humanoids in 2017, 2018, went very deep on the space, went very deep on the technology, and then went very deep on the process paths at Amazon where we could use humanoids, and started early work with agility robotics. Amazon's still working with agility. I'm still super impressed by the agility team. But once we enumerated every place where a humanoid would be valuable in Amazon's logistics, we then went back and said, is the humanoid the form factor we would want? If we were doing this blank sheet to automate these process paths, what technology capability do we want? And it turns out humanoids weren't what we wanted. They were too complicated. We needed robots that could work collaboratively in and around humans. It was not clear how we were going to safety rate these 300-pound mechanical things that can fall over really easily. It was not clear that many degrees of actuation actually mattered. It turns out, Amazon's facilities are built around people moving carts and things around. So, you have floors that you can, hospitals as well, where wheels work. You really wanted something a little bit simpler. You wanted the sensing not to move around all the time. It turns out, humanoid, our eyes, we bounce around, but there's a lot of adjustment going on to do that. You really want fixed mount sensors. And so what we wanted was a human-capable robot, something that can move boxes, totes, carts, fill a lot of those kind of process gaps. But you actually wanted something wheeled. You wanted something with a low center of gravity. You wanted something with fixed mount sensors. And then you wanted the ability to put greater and greater manipulation on it. At the time, we didn't really have an idea how to build that robot. We didn't see anything in the industry that looked like that robot. I ended up leaving Amazon to get back to Silicon Valley, hypergrowth, was CTO for Scale AI for 1.5 years, and then decided to get back into robotics. And I still realized that robot wasn't out there. The industry was chasing humanoids because I think they just haven't gone through that analysis, right? We're still in the early excited phase about the tech. We're starting to look at all the use cases, and I think we're seeing a big question emerging. Is it going to be the house? Is it going to be the commercial environment? I don't think it's either. I think the form factor's not right. I think what we want in the home is different. What we want in a commercial environment's different. And so, yeah, with Cobot, we decided to just aim for where we think the goal is on where the commercial environments are going to want, what type of cobots they need.
And there has been this argument that humanoids are sort of built for this world where humans operate. You sort of alluded to that. Alfred, what's your take on the obsession almost with humanoid robots, and is that the right form factor?
Well, it is a form factor, and as Brad mentioned, there are certain things that it's not best for. And the thesis around humanoids is that the world is designed for humans, or we design the world for us. Mm-hmm. And I think that's true on this stage, in this, this conference center. But the world is not designed for humans. The desert is not designed for humans. Highways are not designed for humans. The water, the oceans, not designed for humans. Air and space. And certainly the universe is not designed for humans. And so we need more imagination and more variety of form factors than just humanoids. But don't get me wrong, humanoids will serve a purpose.
Are you investing in both? Have you taken a stance on if one is better, or will you sort of spread your bets here?
Well, we'll invest in all sorts of robotics, because robotics is the future.
So Vinod was just on stage. Vinod Khosla said that, what did he say? Robotics are going to be bigger than the automotive industry. Do you have a take on that? Is he right?
I think so, yeah. No, I think the amount of physical work we do, cars are great for getting us to point or moving materials, but there's a huge amount of material just imagine how much work went to set up this expo hall, right? And most of that was done, all of that was done by humans, shuttling things back and forth with carts and the like. And so, yeah, when you start to look at every place that you can bring in automation and bring in capable robots, it's way more than automotive.
How would you handicap?
I would even say that it depends on how you define what a robot is. Mm-hmm. If it's automated some task that a human used to do, if you call that a robot, it's already bigger than the automotive industry. There's a lot of things that are automated today that we used to do by hand. Mm-hmm. I think it will continue. We're in a world of accelerating change. The convergence of hardware, software, sensors, motors, all of those things are converging to make much more capable robots a reality. And so we're consistently compounding at a faster rate in robotics, and yes, it will be much, much bigger than the automotive industry.
And I guess if you think about Tesla, there's sort of this overlap on what you define a car is. Is it sort of a robot in some ways?
No, an automated vehicle is in some ways a robot.
Yeah.
It just happens that the form factor is for roads.
Let's talk about the labor market. I'm fascinated by this discussion as well, but what do you think this looks like in 5 or 10 years? Are fulfillment center workers at Amazon going to be working right alongside robots? What's the level of displacement we'll see, and how do you think about it, Brad?
Yeah, I've thought about this a lot. I thought about this, we thought about this a lot at Amazon, like how we think about workforce transitions. I think we look at I look at this kind of in a historical frame, right? In colonial US, over 70% of the labor was in agriculture, right? Recent stats, it's less than 2%, right? So the amount of work it took just to have enough food to eat, we've automated substantially. And so, that sector still employs a lot of people, but on a proportion much less. You look after World War II, there's a huge influx of folks into the labor market, from the war, and that just led to an explosion, an economic explosion. And then one of the stories I love is the automated pin setter for bowling alleys, right? It used to be that pin setting was done by humans. It was a fairly dangerous job. Once the automated pin setter came in, the game got more fun, the economics worked better, and we saw this explosion in the 60s of bowling as a recreational activity. In the internet, there were like 400,000 jobs selling Yellow Pages ads. I don't know anybody who sells Yellow Pages ads anymore. So these kind of labor transitions happen, and what they have tended to enable is that we get to work on higher quality work, higher quality problems. We're still at 4%. You would have thought with all this technology change that unemployment would be incredibly high right now. It's still incredibly low. And so I think AI is going to transform a lot. I actually think right now knowledge work is going to be the thing that changes faster than physical work, just because of where the AI is at. But we're going to see both transform substantially in the next 5 to 10 years.
How do you think about it, Alfred, from sort of a macro standpoint, what this means for the global economy?
Yeah, I'm not a macro economist, but I would say because I'm a venture capitalist, my job is to be very optimistic. And just as Brad was talking about, every single megatrend in technology there was a concern about job loss. And in fact, it reduced costs of something that made it so much more popular. And we continue to use more and more of technology, and jobs transition, but actually it's created more jobs and more opportunity. Imagine in a situation where you're not doing the mundane tasks, you're doing only the things that you want to do and the things that you want to innovate on. I think there's going to be a huge amount of innovation because we're freed up from doing tasks that we frankly don't want to do. I mean, many people talk about their job and it's like, I mostly enjoy my job. Well, there's a set of things that you don't enjoy. And hopefully both digital machines and physical machines will help automate the things that we do not enjoy. I don't think anybody goes to an Amazon distribution center wanting to lug things from point A to point B. They want to do other things. They want to serve the customer. We can free people up to serve customers more and innovate on their behalf.
And Brad, you alluded to this, low unemployment, and then we also have the political backdrop where immigration is changing. Do you think we will eventually need fewer workers, which could be seen as a positive if we're not going to get the influx of workers from abroad?
Well, if we're going to reshore manufacturing, which I think is obviously an incredible trend, and I think a valuable kind of foundational capability, that we're going to have to do that through automation. There isn't the labor force that is educated or interested in those type of jobs right now, and so that reshoring is going to have to come with a substantial amount of automation as well. And I think that'll be exciting, right? To have a manufacturing base that is highly, highly automated, local, will be an incredible asset for the country. But yeah, it's not going to the idea that that somehow brings tons of jobs with it, we don't have enough people who already the manufacturing industry is struggling to hire the roles that they need. So if we brought back all kinds of additional, it's not that people are jumping for those jobs.
Does that play into your investment thesis as well? I would think that's a major growth opportunity. If manufacturing is coming back on shore, you're going to need major enterprises like Amazon, I would think, to probably implement robotics in a way that they may not have needed to 5 years ago.
I think we're going to be surprised to the upside in the long run. I think robots are becoming more capable. They still feel a little clunky today, but if you just zoom out into the future, it's going to be an explosion of robotics, but also an explosion of jobs. People have to build these robots. They're going to be entrepreneurs that are going to have to find different form factors. They're going to be engineers that want to have to go design those robots. They're going to be people that need to go service them. We need to go build them. And those things are just, there's just going to be more and more of these kind of jobs, and they're very desirable jobs.
And then Brad, talk a little bit about sort of what's built under the hood and the intelligence of Gen AI, some of the models you're using, how that helps. I think you called it athletic intelligence. I love that term. What happens under the hood? What sort of models are you using, and how are you making these smarter?
Yeah, so I think of AI for robotics in kind of two frames. One is what I consider classic autonomy, but classic autonomy has been invented over the last 15 years. It's SLAM, navigation, planning. I think robots can now collaboratively move in and around. Amazon's Proteus robot does this. Our robot Proxy moves collaboratively in and around humans safely, right? And that technology has been enabled by sensing and LiDARs, but sensor fusion and these SLAM, navigation, and localization. But a lot of that is not necessarily like these deep learned networks. And so we think in robotics now about end-to-end networks, pixels to actuation. The reality is pixels to actuation is super promising and not really widely deployed right now because you can't really declare it's safe in these environments. And so we see amazing videos, amazing demonstrations. In order to get that robust, we need a lot more data. And to build these foundation models where it kind of zero-shot, one-shot generalizes, or where robots can kind of self-learn like we do, we need a lot more data. There's Jensen describes physical AI as kind of this next step in an exponential after agentic AI, and I think that's right. So we're going to see the AI get better and better, but at the timeline, it's a little like self-driving. Like the timeline might take us a little longer than the videos seem to imply. But when we get that, it's going to be incredibly transformative. But there's a lot we can do with today's AI capabilities, with today's techniques. Segment anything, all these kind of technologies are incredible foundational building blocks for more and more capable robots.
Do you have a take on the timeline, Alfred, of when this might be more commercially viable, more ubiquitous?
I think timelines are quite interesting. We are always disappointed in the short run, and we're surprised in the long run. I sort of go back to when I first went and saw Sebastian Thrun give his talk at TED, and I think it was 2011 about self-driving cars when he was still at Google. And now we actually have physical proof that it works, at least only but in San Francisco, but limited in the city. It's not driving on the freeways yet. So that's taken 20 years. And so 10, 20 years we try to think in decades. We try to back daring founders in their formative seed formation stages with the idea, and we try to help them build legendary companies in the long run. And I would say we've had existing proofs of companies that in a decade, they can, from idea to a decade, they can be worth $1 to $10 billion companies. In 2 decades, they could become $10 to $100 billion companies. And in 3 decades, as with Google and NVIDIA and Apple, which Sequoia had the privilege of backing, they're worth trillion-dollar companies. And in the future, we'll see those companies continue to compound. They'll be worth 10 to 20 trillion in the next decade. So $1 trillion company in robotics is certainly feasible.
Guys, we ran out the shot clock, but I want to get your take quickly, Brad, on humanoid robots or robots in the house. When will robots, if ever, be doing our laundry?
Yeah, I was thinking about this. I mean, obviously, mechatronic systems do a lot of our laundry work right now, right? The washer and dryer do that. I think it is interesting, like if someone had 2 arms just mounted beneath the cabinet to fold your clothes, I would be interested in that product. But I also think the economics of the whole household are challenging, right? If we look at, say, a robotic vacuum cleaner, it's interesting. Thinking Machines Corporation, I don't know, supercomputer company founded by Danny Hillis. Their original idea was to build a robotic vacuum cleaner. It later was built, by iRobot. But if we look at that, maybe a typical vacuum is about $60. A robotic vacuum cleaner, $300, $400, maybe a 3-year lifetime. It means we're willing to spend about $80 a year to have something that does our vacuuming for us. That means the economics are quite challenging, and I think we've seen this as Amazon and others, home automation. How much are you willing to spend to upgrade your shades to have them automatically go up and down? It turns out that people don't put huge amounts of money into automation in their home unless it really materially moves the work effort. And so I think we will see robotic capabilities in the home. I don't know if that's going to be a 300-pound metal thing running around our house. I think it's going to be more like Roombas or maybe some appliances that sit in our laundry rooms.
Alfred, we'll give you the last word. What are you most excited about in this space? What should give people the most optimism around humanoids, or not humanoids, robotics in general?
I think just in general, the sort of things that are capable of being done today in robotics has proven out to be very fascinating, and Brad worked at the front lines of robotics at Amazon, and I think the next decade will be very, very exciting in robotics.
Gentlemen, continue. I cut you off, Alfred. That's the last word. I know we're out of time. Thank you both. That was wonderful. We could go on I thought they said, you have 19 minutes. I thought they said 90 minutes, and I got very excited to talk to these guys for 90 minutes. But we'll have to leave it here. Thank you both.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, kids.
Guys.